Congratulations on your 5th title. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Congratulations. You deserve this. Congratulations. First of all, I know you can't hear us, but the crowd is excited. I know you've been up all night. We appreciate you coming out. It means everything to us. I'm Carrie Champion, the host and moderator, and welcome to First Take. This is Stephen A. Smith, ladies and gentlemen. What is that? They're funny. You guys are funny. I see. It's, they're funny, Stephen A.
It's their day.
Okay.
It's their day. They deserve it. They deserve it.
Let them have it. You guys are funny. We appreciate your humor. Let's give it up for your mayor, Mr. Skip Bayless. Look at that. Skip, they love you. They love you. Okay, so let's get the show started. Thank you so much. We get it. Mr. Mayor, speak to your people.
Spurs fans, and I do love every last one of you. I must begin by apologizing to all of you today because I blew it. Even I underestimated just how dominant the San Antonio Spurs are. I said, and I tweeted since December, Spurs in 6. And I was very happily wrong last night. Spurs in 5. 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 Thank you. Forgive me, I'm a little manic today because I haven't been to bed either. But I don't need to remind you that your Spurs just dominated the Miami Heat the way no finals opponent has ever been dominated. They won by the widest margin of victory combined ever. By 70 points, they beat the Heat. And before I hand the floor over to my esteemed partner, Stephen A., I just want to thank the San Antonio Spurs for being the best basketball team I have ever seen. This team, no diva egos, no locker room drama, no who's going to get the most shots tonight. In fact, all you need to know about my San Antonio Spurs, the MVP of the finals is the one guy they had to push to shoot the basketball. Are you kidding me? Thank you, Kawhi Leonard, for outplaying LeBron James in games 3, 4, and 5. And thank you. This is crazy out here. Hang on just a second.
Take your time. Take your time.
I want to thank Tim Duncan for playing some of the greatest basketball of his career at age 38.
Yeah.
I want to thank Manu Ginobili for last night making the 2 huge shots that stopped the bleeding at 22-6, and then for posterizing Chris Bosh and following it up with that 3 that broke the game open. That was the end of it right there. I want to thank Patty Mills for making so many huge shots all year, including those 4 3-pointers in the third quarter. And finally, last but not least, I want to thank my partner, Stephen A. Smith, for not picking my San Antonio Spurs. The floor is yours.
Oh, my.
Well, obviously, I'm in enemy territory, and that's fine. That's fine. In all seriousness, I've been covering the NBA now for 18 years, and you're never happy about losing. You're certainly not happy about having your pick wrong, but you have to be humble enough to concede defeat. The fact of the matter is that there was no fluke. The best team stands here today as the NBA champion. It's just that simple. When you look at the San Antonio Spurs, I've been saying all year long, they were a better team and a deeper team. But come NBA Finals, I believe that it was evenly matched enough where it would have come down to one game. And over the course of 48 minutes, if you have an evenly matched contest, I'm rolling with the best player in the world. The San Antonio Spurs said, we ain't letting it get to that point. We're going to handle this. And boy, did they do it. They did not beat the Miami Heat. They beat them down. They stumped. And I got to give the Miami Heat a lot of credit because after the game, whether it was in front of the podium or behind the scenes, they sat up there and they said, we lost to a better team. They whipped our butts. They were just better in every facet. Their movement of the basketball, their perimeter shooting, their inside game, their depth, their coaching, whatever it was. When it is rare that you see a team win in practically every category imaginable that's relevant to the game of basketball. But they did it, whether it was points in the paint, whether it was fast break points, whether it was rebounding, whether it was perimeter shooting, whatever the case may be, whatever San Antonio needed to do, they did it. And if you were the Miami Heat, you literally got to the point where you were feeling sorry for them because you were wondering where they were going to get hit next. 1 minute it's Kawhi Leonard, another minute it's Manu Ginobili, another minute it's Tim Duncan, another minute it's Kawhi Leonard, another minute it's Patty Mills. And then to close the deal, Tony Parker took over late in the game. You just watched and you just said, damn, there's nothing they can do. There's literally nothing that they could do. And to me, that's what you saw on the face of LeBron James. That's what you saw on the face of Dwayne Wade. There's nothing that we can do. And I think that when you look at it, you got to sit there and think about it. NBA is a game of stars.
Sure.
We love the stars. But when you see the kind of team basketball that took place, all of those individual superstars basically have been put on notice by the San Antonio Spurs. The league doesn't need you nearly as much as you think we do if you're not going to come in here ready to play basketball the right way, because the San Antonio Spurs proved to you what you can do when you're willing to play the right way. I tip my cap to them. The best team in the NBA stands as the NBA.
Well said, sir. Well said, sir.
I appreciate you saying that. And just to underline just how dominant this finals was for the Spurs, remember after game 2, I sat in this very seat and I had to apologize to Ernestine because I got so upset the night before.
We remember.
It was because I couldn't recognize my Spurs down the stretch.
Okay.
They should have won game 2. They had it right there. So again, and maybe I'm being prisoner of the moment. I'm being manic here. But in the big picture, they should have won 4 straight games as opposed to in 5.
Well, I disagree there. I don't agree with that. But what I will tell you is this. I don't think you're truly appreciating the Spurs from this perspective. What I saw from the Spurs over the last 3 games, Miami could have won games 1 and 2 and still lost this series.
Okay.
That's how dominant the Spurs were over the last 3 games.
He's not a prisoner of the moment. He's not a prisoner
That's how
of the
dominant they were over the last 3. If the Spurs had lost games 1 and 2 and still looked the way they looked in games 3 and 4, they would have won last night, and then they would have went back to Miami and won in game 6. That's how dominant they were over the last 3 games.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to remind you, a member of your championship winning team will join the show. Danny Green will be here. Danny Green at the desk. You don't want to miss that. But let's move on to our next topic. LeBron's teams are now 11-16 in NBA Finals, and that's including 3 series losses. Now, the big 3, they're now 2 2-2 in the final, Stephen A. So how did this loss affect LeBron's legacy, if at all, in your opinion?
Well, you're going to sit there and say it affected his legacy to some degree from the perspective that you are 2-3 in the finals, even though I don't count that first finals loss when he was in Cleveland going up against San Antonio.
I'll give you that
as far as I'm concerned, he didn't have a team.
Yep, sure.
You know, so to me, I look at him as 2-2. But what I will say is this. If you're the best player in the world, you can't completely escape culpability when the San Antonio Spurs go on a 50-20 run, okay? Somewhere along that road, you've got to be able to stop the bleeding to some degree. And he couldn't stop it.
Sure.
He couldn't stop it when they scored 12 straight after being down 22-6. He couldn't stop it when they went 33-13. He couldn't stop it when overall the run was 50-20. But at the same time, I'm not holding him to the same level of accountability as others will, because we have to recognize he was going up against a superior team. And by the way, he didn't have all his horses. Dwayne Wade is going to have to get operated on this summer.
Yep.
There's no question about it. He's not healthy. Chris Bosh, that's a different ball game because he's got to sit there and continue to develop his game. I don't understand why he was so pedestrian during this series. The Miami Heat are actually older. People think the San Antonio Spurs are older. The Miami Heat actually have an older team than the San Antonio Spurs. Their average age is 30. San Antonio is 29. So you have to take that into consideration. They don't have much of a bench. Outside of Ray Allen, who did you have? Udonis Haslem is older. Chris Birdman Anderson, he's limited, okay? You look at Mario Chalmers, obviously, you know, he ended up getting benched for this game because of the way he struggled in the first 4 games. You just look at a whole bunch of these. Greg Oden never materialized. That experiment was a bust. Michael Beasley couldn't figure out things defensively, and as a result, he wasn't even dressing for the finals until last night. So when you look at it from all of those standpoints, there's no way to get around the fact that LeBron James, it was almost 1-on-5.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it from that perspective, I don't think it takes the hit that some other people would give it. I understand that you have to sit there and point the finger at him to some degree because he is the best player in the world. But at the same time, this wasn't Dallas where you're looking at the Miami Heat, they were evenly matched or they should have won the series. If you know the game of basketball and you watch the game of basketball, the San Antonio Spurs were incredibly superior to the Miami Heat, and even the greatest player in the world can't overcome that.
Okay, so when we talk about legacy, we're talking about 11 years worth now for LeBron James. We're talking about 2 and 3 in the NBA Finals. I give you the pass that you gave him for the first one against these Spurs younger.
Sure, so 2-2.
2 and 2. Let's it was 2 and 3, but 2 and 2. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Now, there was the meltdown against Dallas, and I don't think that gets expunged off his legacy just because he broke through and finally won 1 ring.
I agree.
Then we had the Ray Allen shot. Don't get me started last year. It did save LeBron's legacy. It took him off the hook for a very shaky end to Game 6 last year. Okay. You and I disagree about this because obviously LeBron played a great Game 7, and I give you that, but he would not have had a Game 7 unless Ray Allen nails that corner 3, which was one of the great clutch shots I have ever witnessed. So now let's look at what just transpired in these finals. LeBron had cramps to start the Game 1. Just for a superstar, you have to figure out how to avoid cramps in Game 1 of the NBA Finals because I can't remember any other great player who had cramps in the finals. I just can't remember it. You have to figure out how to maneuver around your cramps.
It's not fair, but go ahead.
Okay, but look, I'm putting this in the big picture of a guy who wasn't there when his team really needed him. They really needed him in Game 2, and he was all-time sensational because this is a supremely gifted player. And all the way through last night, I was scared to death of LeBron James. I'll put that out there publicly. But then Game 3, when his team really, really needed him, he got off to the sensational start, you recall, in Game 3. Then he went strangely quiet and passive the last 3 quarters of that game, scored only 8 points with 7 turnovers in the last 3 quarters. And I'm thinking, where are you, LeBron? Game 4, which is pivotal. This is basically do or die at home, your house. The whole first half, strangely quiet and passive. I couldn't figure it out. I'm thinking, thank you, LeBron James.
Well, first of all, there's a couple of things that you're missing, all right? Number one, you can't mention his cramps without mentioning the fact that the AC broke and it was 102 degrees.
Did anybody else cramp?
Time out.
Nobody else cramped.
Time out.
Nobody else cramped.
I'm going to tell y'all this right now. Understand something. If the San Antonio Spurs had stomped on a team tantamount to the Cleveland Cavaliers from years ago, you wouldn't be sitting here celebrating the way you're celebrating, because it wouldn't mean that much. It means that much because you beat the best player in the world. Respect it. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that it's not a joke. Nobody's making excuses here. But the fact of the matter is that it's not like the dude hasn't suffered from cramps before. Now, if you have normal conditions and then all of a sudden, all right, it's not there, then that can throw you for a loop. That's what happened in game one. When you look at what the rest of this team was doing, you can't sit here and stick your chest out and bloviate about the greatness of the San Antonio Spurs and to forget about that when it's time to criticize the best player in the world. What did Greg Popovich do? He took Kawhi Leonard, 22 years of age, 6'8", incredibly athletic, exceptional defensively. Not only did he put him on LeBron James, but he had him backed up by Tim Duncan and Tiago Splitter, who's no scrub on the defensive end of the floor. So if you've got 2 7-footers on your front line backing you up, and at the same time you're 6'8" and an elite defender in your own right, and you're going up against LeBron James, well, then that's going to limit him, especially when he's throwing the ball to other people and nobody can make a damn shot.
Right.
So let's not act like this dude all of a sudden sat up there, sold out, didn't show up, or whatever the case may be. That wasn't the case. He lost to a better team.
Last night, sensational start for the Miami Heat. Second quarter, where was LeBron James after he told his team, follow my lead? Right. He scored 3 points in the second quarter.
That's right. And what happened? Time out. The NBA, there isn't a game alive that isn't a game of runs. That's when San Antonio made their run. So what? The point is, in the aftermath of all of that, what transpired? What transpired was Greg Popovich going to work and recognizing LeBron had little to no help. Because if you're Dwayne Wade and you don't have any lift on those knees, you can't go inside, not against Tim Duncan and Tiago Splitter. You can't pull that off. If you're Chris Bosh and basically you're a perimeter shooter, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to give me Ray Allen? Now, Ray Allen shot 1 for 8. Now, that was a struggle because we didn't anticipate that. Where else can you turn? Mario Chalmers couldn't make shots. Norris Cole couldn't make shots. Ray Allen couldn't make shots.
I hear what you're saying.
What do you want to do?
Big picture, LeBron James, he lacks all-time great intangibles. He's got all-time great talent, but when it is time to show killer will, I don't see killer will. I didn't see killer will last night, second quarter or third quarter. And I saw some quotes from your radio show on Friday, and you basically acknowledged his intangibles are lacking on the highest level, the Larry Bird magic.
I said, when you look at Jordan, he's in another stratosphere. When you look at Kobe and the kind of career he's had, to me, he's in another stratosphere in terms of that killer instinct. Of course, Magic, Bird, no question about it. But what I'm saying to you is the man's been to 5 NBA Finals. He's won 2.
Yeah.
Okay. He's won 2.
Sure.
And by the way, Game 7 does count for something.
But do you realize how much?
It's like you ignore Game 7 because you feel that should not have been.
I gave him a standing
ovation.
ovation.
But I'm saying you should not, because you believe there should not have been a Game 7.
I don't think there should have been. And when he broke through to win his first ring, remember those games in Miami? Dwayne Wade, big game in Game 3 back home. Then Mario Chalmers had 25 in Game 4. Then Mike Miller hit 7 threes in the closeout Game 5.
I saw a game in Chicago years ago when Jordan was playing, when Stacey King and Scott Williams and people like that showed up because Jordan was struggling in that particular game. I saw when Magic blew a Game 7 because he turned over the basketball on a multitude of occasions.
Against whom?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Excuse me, who's LeBron going against last night? Did you not just call the Spurs the best team you have ever seen?
Yeah.
So what do you say? So you asking me the rhetorical question as who was it against? Well, who was it against? Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili,
okay, but
Tony Parker.
you picked Miami because you said they had the greatest player in the world. And so I'm saying, okay, I give you that. So show me greatest player, and he didn't show me.
He didn't show it to you because the Spurs are that superior. Period.